Are we on? We are on, and welcome to Wednesday night Bible class here on March 25th in 2026. Announcements tonight. Please keep Rita Horseman in your prayers as she recovers from heat stroke. She was able to come home from the hospital yesterday, so that's a good thing. Peggy Hoth had hip replacement surgery on Monday, and she went home yesterday. Services for Patty Miller are at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning here at Eastwood. This Sunday afternoon, beginning at 4 o'clock, everyone is invited to the North Fairgrounds parking lot for a kite flying. So bring a friend, a kite, and a lawn chair if you want one. I think that's if you want a lawn chair, not if you want a friend. But bring a friend if you want a friend there as well. If you don't want to fly a kite, come on out and watch. From the weather forecast, it looks to be a beautiful afternoon that's going to be perfect for kite flying. So that's going to be just right across the street. Plan now to attend the sunrise service at the pavilion at 7 o'clock a.m. on April 5th. That's 10 days away. That's coming close, so that'll be fantastic. Soup Kitchen is April 7th, so please sign up by the supply room to supply food, serve, or deliver. Groceries for Carpenter Place pickup is April 9th. Please put your grocery items in the blue tub in the south foyer. If you wish to make a monetary donation to purchase perishables like meat, dairy, produce, etc., give your check or cash made out to the Carpenter Place to the office. Guys Campout is April 17th to 18th at Kansas Bible Camp. All men are welcome. I know my boys are coming, so anyone that age all the way up to whenever, it is about 10 minutes that way. So if you want to come out in the evening and then go home because you don't want to sleep out on a cot, that's okay. So it's pretty close by. You are invited to the next version of the Women Walking with God Legacy. Mark your calendar for April 11th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Northside Church of Christ in Wichita. Posters will be on the bulletin board by the nursery and by the kitchen by Sunday. Ladies' Day at Emporia Avenue in Wichita is April 18th. Rose Shady from Northside is the speaker, and a flyer is posted for that by the nursery. Ashley Poe's boyfriend, Doug, is struggling with anxiety, so please keep him in your prayers. And we just got a message that Gene Fluhoft has come through surgery, and that went really, really well. So Gene is pretty social. If you send him a text or maybe even a call tomorrow sometime, he would probably really appreciate that. Anything else tonight? Ashley.
And I've been telling some people about my court case, but really good on Monday, and he's been since longer, but it will take 8 months for him to get in, but at least we'll get somewhere.
There you go. Her court case finally came through. It's going well and getting some resolution there. So that's good. Resolution and closure. So that's great. Anything else? All right. We will pray, and then Galen has a song for us, and JJ is here. So JJ's got Devo tonight. Let's pray. Holy God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for your son who conquered death and gave us hope of resurrection. Just thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight. Allow us to be able to study, to learn, and just mold our lives a little bit closer to you. Just continue to bless us always, expand our territories, and allow us to walk in your grace, your vision, not ours. In Jesus' name, amen.
I'm going to have them play tonight one song. We'll do it twice because I don't think anybody will know this song. We'll have it played full volume, and then we'll play it with just the training disc where you just hear the four voices. It's called Battle Belongs. If you're like me, if you listen to the soprano, there sounds like a clash right there at the first end of the second phrase. Just listen real carefully. And then I want you to pay attention to see there's a section that we also have some unison. So listen to that. And we'll sing it. We'll do it twice. I'd be surprised. Hold up your hand when we're done if you've heard this song.
When all I see is the battle, you see my victory. When all I see is the battle, you see my victory. When all I see is the mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is a cross, God, you see the empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Good evening. Alrighty, if you'll advance to that slide. So here we got two different cows. So I'm a rancher, obviously, but the title is, Are You Chewing Enough Cud? Are you chewing enough cud? So cows have 4 stomachs, and they don't attach to anything. They don't attach together like ours do. So they have to spit it up, and they chew on it, and then they swallow it again. That's how they digest it. And that's how they get the best out of all their nutrition. They don't get all their nutrition from grass. They don't get all their nutrition from corn or from, silage or an alfalfa. So they need the right nutritional base to get exactly what they have. You know, it's like the cows on the slide. One cow has got something wrong. She's not getting enough feed. There's probably something wrong internal. You know, she probably got something wrong inside her. The other cow, it's our cow, but she's fed right. You know, the cows are like us in sin. You know, when we don't know what we're doing at the beginning, you know, unless someone teaches us. You know, cows, they go off eye. Whatever they see, they eat. You know, they'll eat nails, they'll eat metal, they'll eat, you know, twine, they'll eat anything on the ground. If it looks good, they'll eat it. And you know, it's kind of problem because they'll make them sick. And like that cow up there, she probably has hardware disease. She probably ate something she wasn't supposed to. So to wrap it all back to kind of what God is, you know, are you like a cow? Are you chewing on the scriptures? Are you reading the Bible like you're supposed to be doing? Are you, you know, not just listening to Wayne's sermon, but also, you know, contemplating? Are you running through a sieve? Are you, you know, doing everything you can to grow your nutritional value? You know, are you doing it enough to be, you know, have a fat faith? One of the verses that goes really well with this is, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. That's in Proverbs. And then in Psalms, how happy is the one who does not walk in advance of the wicked, of the stand in the pathway of sinners, or sit at the company of mockers. Instead, he delights in the Lord's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. So I was going to bring up some cud from a cow. I was told we've been having the talks, you know, bring something up. It's memorable. I've been memorable, but I didn't do it because that'd be weird. But are you chewing on the scriptures? Are you chewing your cud the right way? You're all dismissed.
Man, after eating dinner just a little while ago, I am so thankful he didn't bring any of that cud with him here tonight. I might have been regurgitating a few things, you know, seeing that. You know, I'm a city boy, John. I'm not a country boy like you here. Wow. Have you had a good day? Hopefully? Yeah, I see a lot of smiles, see a lot of twinkling eyes, and glad to have you here tonight. Now, I know you're going to go into deep, dark depression. This is my final night of teaching. So, for a while, but I'm going to start up on Sunday morning. But we have a great guy coming in here next Wednesday night. Brother Dave, you had a good title for your class. What's it called? We're going camping with God. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun there. He's going to be talking about the temple, the tabernacle, a lot of things that we've covered in the book of Hebrews. So he's going to go to another level, and guess what that's going to prepare us for? In the fall, what class are we going to take? And I know Mike Evans is real fired up about this. Leviticus, yeah. How could you get much more exciting than the book of Leviticus and all the different laws and ordinances that they had? But it'd be a really good study for us. And I do appreciate Brother Quall very much for many reasons. But last week he was talking about Hebrews chapter 11. I appreciate you filling in for me. That really made a big difference. Thank you, Mr. Trey. I didn't mind walking around with the microphone, but it might have been a little hard trying to do too many things. All right, well, I'm going to put this one back on here and then do the clip-on. All right, okay, sounds good. It is, hold on there, Ashley. Boy, it's that time of year when that sun just likes to bear glare down through those windows over there. So thanks for shutting those doors. That gets pretty bright. Okay, so appreciate Brother Quall, him doing Hebrews chapter 11. That brings us to Hebrews chapter 12 tonight. We're not going to get all the way through the book. I'm going to save Hebrews chapter 13 either for next fall as a finish up and a kickoff to the book of Leviticus, or anything can happen with some of our summer speakers. They could get sick, might not be able to make it, and then we could cover it then. But let's go ahead and turn, if you will, to Hebrews chapter 12 tonight. Hebrews chapter 12. Oh, I've got to tell you a little funny as we get started here. Husband and wife having a little disagreement. I know that's a shock. But they were having a little disagreement. And they were disagreeing about who should make the coffee in the morning. Well, the wife said, "You get up earlier than I do. Why don't you go ahead and get the coffee started?" He said, "Well, that would be fine, but you're the wife. You're the woman. You're the one that does all the cooking around here. You ought to get up and make the coffee." She said, "I'm not buying it. In fact, the Bible says that the man is supposed to make the coffee." He's like, "Yeah, right, prove it." And you know what she does? She opens up her New Testament. She says, right there, it says, he brews, over and over again. I can't, I've been saving that to the very end. You know, she shared that joke with us, and I'm going to save that to the very end here. All right. So we are in the book of Hebrews. It's a word of exhortation. It really is more of a sermon as you look at it. And at the Equip conference last week, I went and checked out the professor. You know, those professors are a little shady every now and then. Make sure he was teaching on the right thing. But he was in agreement with a lot of things that we had taught throughout our course. He didn't get to do the whole book, but he had 4 or 5 chapters, several that we had covered. But he kind of brought that out, that it is more of a sermon. It's a word of encouragement and exhortation for the people. They had started off really well, like a lot of us start off in our Christian walk. They started off even in the midst of great persecution and suffering. We didn't get to cover it in chapter 10, but he talks about that. In that area where it says, "Do not forsake the assembly, as some of you are in the habit of doing." So there had come a time in their life where they started off well, even though they were being persecuted and suffering. Now the persecution has continued, but now they're starting to drift away. And they're needing encouragement because they're trying to go back to their previous religion of Judaism. So the writer of the book of Hebrews has to encourage them and say, well, wait a second. Jesus is greater than the prophets. He's greater than angels. He's greater than, has a better covenant. He has a better priesthood. It's a better worship system. There's a better rest. Over and over and over again that we have looked at, that he proves to them that Christianity is much better than their previous religion, the religion of Judaism and following under the law of Moses. So Christianity is far superior to that. That was his big point. Now, one of the best ways to learn something I've noticed over the years is by watching the example of others. Have you noticed that? Some people are very, very visual. Others are auditory. Some have to put their hands on it. Or I tell some people, you can tell them something, you can show them something, but there are just some people that have to touch the electric fence to learn, all right? Have you ever been around some people or kids like that? It's like, okay, I've warned you 5 times. If you want to touch it, go ahead and touch it. Oh, okay, I'll never do that again. But the best way to learn that I've seen overall is by an example of seeing somebody do something. Well, let's think it about being faithful. What does it mean to be faithful to God even under great difficulty, trial, hardship, persecution? And that's what Brother Quall shared with you in Hebrews chapter 11. He just walks through, all right, here's people like Abel and Abraham and Noah and Sarah and Moses, and David and Solomon, and many that don't even get mentioned. He just gives them example after example after example. Here's what they did by faith, by faith, by faith. They persevered. Did Abraham ever get to see the ultimate fulfillment of the promises that God gave him in his life? No. He saw them from afar. He was a prophet. God revealed these things, but he never got to really fully experience them. No, he was looking for a city whose builder and architect was God. He was looking for that heavenly city. Yeah, he had a lot of prosperity, owned a lot of things in his life, but lived in a tent. Now, it sounds like Matt's planning a nice, fun activity here in a couple of weeks there. Hillary, is that correct? All right. But they're going to be sleeping in a tree house or in a tent. You know, when you're young, that sounds so exciting. You know, when you're old like me and you've got arthritis in your back, I'm like, no way, no way. I'm going to be out there. We'll go encourage them. But hey, guys, 10 o'clock, I wish you well. Stay warm and well fed. We'll see you in the morning here. But that's what Abraham did, you know, for all those years of his life. But you learn by example. So chapter 11, Hebrews, Hall of Fame of Faith. You Christians that are thinking about falling away, just look in your Old Testament, look at all these great examples of people that suffered, went through trials, didn't experience all the blessings, but they remained faithful. Learn from them. Now here in chapter 12, he's going to show them an even greater example. The greatest example of all of somebody that was faithful, that continued to obey God, even though they suffered greatly and went through great persecution. And guess who that's going to be? It's going to be Jesus. That's right. Let's go ahead. If you're there, we're going to read Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3 to start off. Verse 1, therefore, okay, when you come across a therefore in the scriptures, what should your mind immediately think of? Therefore, what's it there for? Or I want to look at what went before, because this is connected. Chapter 12, surprise, surprise, is connected to chapter 11. All these people of faith in chapter 11 that he was talking about being an example, he said, okay, summary statement. Therefore, here's how I'm going to apply this here. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Steve-O, how many people can fit into Chiefs Stadium, would you say, up there? 77,000. Wow, 77,000. So roughly, let's say 80,000 people are in the stands. I imagine that's very impressive if you've ever got to go to a ball game. But imagine, 80,000 people watching you and I running this race of faith. And the people that he's talking about, since it's therefore, he's connected it to chapter 11, he's talking about people like Noah and Abraham and Moses. They are part of that stadium of a good example of people of faith that ran the race well and are no doubt cheering us on to say, stay with it, keep on going. Does it make a difference to be in your hometown when you're playing a sport? It does. There is definitely an advantage when people are cheering you on to run that race. That's why it's so important for us as Christians to get together. Let me think, who was this that I got to hear at the Equip conference? It'll come to me here in a second. But this person was talking about that it was the guy that was teaching Hebrews there. He had went on a mission trip in Australia. Churches of Christ in Australia are very small. If you have a church of 50 or 60 people, that's probably a pretty good sized church. Some of them may have 25, 30 members. What do you think would happen if they just kind of got together on a Sunday, just met, had a worship service, kind of went their own way? How well would they do as Christians? Not very well. But it is very, very important for them. They get together for Bible class. They have their worship services, and virtually every single Sunday they have a meal together. Because they realize if we don't continue to fellowship, if we don't continue to meet together, to serve together, we will not stay together as a church. We will drift apart. And that's a challenge for us of being a mid-sized congregation that we can kind of, miss a person here or there, but boy, it is just absolutely vital that we stay connected to one another, that we do, like JJ was saying. And I loved his farming illustration. Hey, kind of like a cow chewing on its cud. Let's break down this Bible. Let's study these verses. Let's illustrate them. Let's think about how could I apply these things to my life. It's so very, very important. So he's telling them, okay, you've run this race. There's people cheering you on. Here's how you're going to run this race. The Christian race is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Some people's marathons are really long. We've had a couple members here at Eastwood that lived to be 101 years old. That's a long marathon. Others don't live that long, but it's a journey. And a marathon's about 26 miles, and you've got to pace yourself. Again, the Bible professor there at York said he played basketball, he played football, and he thought he'd go out for track, and he was going to run the 400. The 400 is one lap around the track, quarter of a mile. And he thought, well, this is easy. I'll just take off and sprint. He was in first place, halfway around the track. As he passed the halfway point, he's like, oh, I'm getting a little bit tired. And the other runners are starting to catch up with him. By the time that he got 3/4 of the way, he said, as hard as I was running, my legs were not wanting to work. And my arms are just kind of flopping around. And there's a real art to training and preparing yourself. Here's how you run this part, you run this part, you run this part. Save a little bit so that you can sprint strong to the end. He didn't know. I've seen a lot of Christians run their Christian race like that. They start off like gangs of fire. I mean, they're at everything. They're reading their Bible, they're coming to this, they're coming to that. But they've run too fast, too hard, and haven't developed that discipline and that perseverance and say, yeah, I want to stay involved. I want to stay connected. I want to do what I can, but I don't want to burn myself out. Then you'll just start to slowly see them slipping back, backing off. And if they're not careful, they could fall away. So he says, here's what you got to do. You've got to run. Don't let yourself get entangled in sin. When I'll see these long distance runners or these sprinters, they don't have a lot of stuff on. They have to run as light as possible to be effective. We don't want a lot of junk slowing us down in our Christian race. But the key I see here in verses 1 through 3 is who should we keep our eyes fixed on? Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Again, the best way we can learn is learn by an example. I'm amazed of how he describes Jesus as we look at him. What does he do for our faith? He's the author, so he's the one that starts our faith. He is the one that perfects it and completes it. And here's how he ran his race. Who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorned the shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. We know it was difficult for Jesus to go to the cross, don't we? How do we know that it was so hard for Jesus to go to the cross? What was the night like beforehand, Dennis? Well, when he prayed to God. Yeah. Sweat drops of blood. And the Hebrew writer talks about that he had many tears that were going on, that he was like, if there's any other way, please take this cup away from me, but ultimately let your will be done. So he submitted to the Father's will. So we know that was hard for him. How embarrassing that would have been for him as they stripped him of his clothes. Pain. I've watched the movie The Passion, Mel Gibson's Passion. How many of you guys have watched that? Several have. That's something you can barely watch one time or two times. It is just so brutal of what they do to Jesus. I'm excited about, he's got part 2, the resurrection, that's coming out soon. He's taken 8 years to write the script for that to make sure that he's kind of getting it right. So I'm kind of excited to see that part. But how brutal the crucifixion was. But what allowed Jesus to finish his race? It said the joy set before him allowed him to endure the cross and overcome the scorn of it and all that. I believe the joy that he was talking about there was going back to heaven and sitting down at the right hand of God. That makes a huge difference if you've ever run a race, been in a competition like that, and you're getting tired, like that one professor was. If you can see the finish line, that I'm just about done, that Jesus kept his eye on it to say, you know, Lord, Father, I'm going to finish your will. I'm going to complete this as hard as it is because I know the finish line is coming and I know the first day of the week, Sunday morning is coming, the resurrection is coming, and I'm eventually going to be back at your right-hand side. And that's a good encouragement for us, isn't it? When we're running the race, we're feeling tired, we're feeling discouraged, maybe some persecution is going on, perhaps our health isn't where we'd like it to be. Let's keep our eyes on Jesus and let's keep our eyes on the finish line. What is our finish line? Heaven is our finish line, isn't it? Tomorrow, I'd encourage you, if any of you are available, to come to Patty Miller's funeral service, or celebration of life, I like to call them. And Patty finished strong. Started off in the church, kind of wandered away for a period of time in her life, and then came back strong. She finished strong, kept her eyes on the goal, and finished with her faith intact. And that's how we all want to be, is to keep our faith intact. Because it is possible. That's the whole purpose of the book of Hebrews, is that there can be Christians that fall away from the faith. You've got to keep from faith to faith. That's what he's trying to encourage them to do. All right, so first of all, look at the example of Jesus. Now, from verses 4 through 12, now we're starting to look at discipline as proof of sonship or proof that you are a child of God. That's kind of an interesting concept. Let's read some of the verses here. He says, in your struggle against sin, you have not resisted to the point of shedding blood. Now, if you'll turn back to chapter 10 here, look with me in verse 32. This will show some of the persecution that they had experienced in their Christian walk. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't to the point of shedding blood. Notice what it says in verse 32 of chapter 10. He said, remember those earlier days after you had received the light. In other words, after you became a Christian. When you stood your ground in a great contest in the face of suffering. Sometimes you were publicly exposed to insult and persecution. At other times you stood side by side with those who were so treated. You sympathized with those in prison and joyfully accepted the confiscation of your property because you knew that you yourselves had better and lasting possessions. So do not throw away your confidence. It'll be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you'll receive what he had promised. So early on in their Christian faith, they had received persecution. They had public insult. They had had their property taken away. But they had not been to the point that they were killing them for their faith. That part hasn't quite come to development. That will be a little bit later on in the first century. But that hasn't experienced that yet. So they've been through hardship, but not extreme hardship like he talked about in verse 4. But let's continue on. Here he says, and have you forgotten the word, here's our word here, a word of encouragement that addresses you as sons. My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline. Do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines those that he loves, and he punishes everyone he accepts as a son. And let's look at how he explains this. Endure hardship as discipline. God's treating you as sons. For what son is not disciplined by his father? If you're not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you're illegitimate children and not true sons. Moreover, we all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of our spirits and live? Our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, that we may share in his holiness. Now, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Very interesting comparison that he makes. Comparison to a discipline that a parent, especially a father, will give, and the discipline that our Heavenly Father will give. He said, have you forgot that? What's one of the primary roles of a parent that you need to apply to your children? Discipline, right? You ever seen any undisciplined kids? Not a whole lot of fun to be around undisciplined kids. Think of the word discipline and disciple. Because some parents, I think it's almost a negative term when they think about, oh, I don't want to, crush their spirit or their creativity or whatever. But think of the word discipline or disciple, that I want to train, I want to encourage, I want to instruct, I want to help mold and shape them to go in the right way. And sometimes it has to be uncomfortable for us to learn those lessons. Remember I said some people, it seems like they only learn when they touch the old electric fence. Yow! I definitely don't want to do that again. And he says something interesting here. He said, if a father didn't discipline his children, they were illegitimate children. He's going back to their time and culture. If somebody had a child out of wedlock, separate and apart from your marriage, it's an illegitimate child. You're not to be interacting with them. You're not going to be teaching them. You're not going to be disciplining them. Then he makes the spiritual parallel to say our Heavenly Father disciplines us. If we did not have discipline, he said you'd be illegitimate children. Well, no, we're going to be legitimate children. We're going to be a daughter of God. We're going to be a son of God. And if you're a child of God, part of our maturing process is to go through trials, struggles, persecutions. Now, just living in this world, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, are you going to have problems and suffering? Yep, that's just part of the natural world. But here's what God can do. He can use, because of our faith, use difficulties that will help grow us and mature us. It's interesting. I was listening to a leadership guy by the name of John Maxwell. And what he likes to do is do leadership luncheons from time to time. So he'll meet with other leaders, sometimes very famous people. Could be presidents, could be prime ministers. And he goes out to lunch with them, and he has a series of questions that he'll ask. And he'll ask them, well, what was one of the biggest lessons that you learned in your life? Inevitably, what do you think, no matter who it is, this leader is, when do you think they learn the most? Heart? What's this? When they failed. When it was really difficult for them. When they're really struggling. That made you really have to apply yourself to learn that lesson, to say, I will never do that again. Some, let's say it's a young couple. They get these fancy little plastic cards that have a chip in them. And on this paper it says, you can charge up to $30,000. You think, wow, that's cool, $30,000 I can put on this credit card. And so I go out to McDonald's, and then I go up to Worlds of Fun, and then I start using it for my gas tank. And, normally it'd be good to be disciplined to pay it off by the end of the month. But, I had a busy month. Maybe I had a couple flat tires I had to get fixed. So now they're going to charge me a percentage. And what's the percentage on those credit cards? 20 to 30% on some of that stuff. And so you don't have to be a math major to start figuring out, whoa, all right, now I taught a class on this not too long ago. I think it used to be 9,000, but I think it's 10 to 12,000 the average American has on their credit card. And it's not of stuff that's of value, it's just stuff that you've purchased with it over time. So you have $12,000 on your credit card at 20 to 30%. Now they said, okay, you just have to make the minimum payment. Maybe that's $189 a month. How long are you going to have to make that minimum payment of $189 a month and you've got $12,000 on your credit card? A long time to be able to pay that off. But if you were a young couple and you did some of those things that make the wisest decision, by the time that you said, okay, now I've got to pick up a second job, we've got to cut that card up and not use it again, and learn how to discipline ourselves, and maybe it takes us 3 to 5 years to pay it off. Guess how they are going to handle credit after that? Much better. If they learned their lesson, and many of us have done those kinds of things to say, oh boy, when I was younger, I wish I would have known. But it's oftentimes through those difficult times that you'll grow or learn the most. Think about that with your Christian life. When has been the time that you really had to grow? Maybe you're going through a real health crisis. Perhaps you were taking care of a loved one that was facing end-of-life issues. Maybe it was just some stressful thing that came. I mean, you had no involvement in it, but it just fell into your lap, and you're like, I've got to pray about this. I've got to be in my Bible every day. I've got to meet with other Christian people just to survive this season. But it's amazing how much you grow during that time. So look at that time that God is not trying to punish you, but He's trying to help you grow and to mature. Now, Brother Steve, we kind of talked about this in staff meeting on Monday morning, and you quoted something out of the book of James. You said one of your favorite passages. What was that? Yeah. Uh-huh. That's right. So when these trials, these tribulations, keep persevering, that you're going to grow through it, that you'll be a lot more mature. As we were trying to come home on Sunday morning, I was looking forward to try to get here early. We had Sunday night for the Master going on. Guess what happened as I walked out to the van, loaded everything up, about to get in there and take off, the back tire totally flat. And it's new tires. I mean, it's only 2 or 3 month old tires on there. So somehow, around the Oklahoma City area, we must have ran over a nail. And I thought, well, great. You know, if you have a minivan, that tire is underneath that thing. And so you've got about that much room to try to crank this thing down. And it's, you know, a big tire for a minivan on that. Of course, I don't have my right tools. I don't have a tire iron. I have that little skinny thing that they put in there. They put in the cheapest little crank. So she was over cranking up. She could just see me. And when they put those lug nuts on, you know, they're supposed to put them on with a certain pressure. What do they call that? A torque wrench, Brother Ray? You know, where it's like, okay. But you know what these like 19, 20-year-old guys are in there? You know, get them on there as tight as they can. So you're like, oh, you know, and it strips out one of the little sockets that we have. And oh boy, and now I've got to go get a new socket on there and everything. But when you've been around as long as I have, when your hair is turned loose and it's turned a little gray, I really didn't get that upset about it, you know. I said, we're just going to do what we have to do. Got the tire off. Of course, it only had 7 pounds of air in it. Needs 60. Thankfully, Doug had a little. It was like, could it get any worse? That's the way I was looking at it. I'm never getting back. How am I going to drive this all the way back to Kansas? Oh, boy. But got it done. Got it over to Walmart there. They got it all done. We're thinking, man, that's taking a long time. They texted us. It came in. How long does it take to change a tire? And so we go up to the desk. They said, oh, it's been done for 30 minutes. Thanks for letting us know. And they're like, hey, Joe, text them that their van's done. Ding. Oh, great. That's really helpful right now. So, but when you've been in those kind of positions before, it doesn't it doesn't help you at all to lose your cool, to get upset. Just try to, you know, do the next kind of thing. And it's growth and maturity. And I could see that in our Christian life. When these situations come up, let's not freak out and go crazy. We have been through difficult stuff before. God's going to get us through. Let's keep our eyes on Jesus. Let's keep our eyes on the prize. Let's keep our eyes on the finish line. We're going to make it through these things. So see this difficulty, challenge, persecution that you go through as an opportunity to grow and develop your faith, and it assures you that you are a child of God. All right, that's verses 4 through 12. Any observations you want to make before we continue on here? Thoughts that are coming to your mind? Yes. Uh-huh.
And the only thing I could take from this situation, I thought that this young man was dealing with the papa,
Mm-hmm.
big guy.
Yes.
And he told his father that he was going to go into this. Well, the papa didn't like it too much.
Uh-huh.
I know there's money to be made with that. He said, get my salary.
Sure.
Basically, I think that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then you could hear the conversation from one booth to the other.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And, the waiter they must have tried to convince him or something. But he told him, he said, look, I've already got my own money. He said, I'm not going to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I just wanted to
Sure. No, it's good. I love to, plant some spiritual seeds with your waiters and waitresses. But, don't come on so strong that you run them off there. Say, I'll pray for you or give them an invitation. But sometimes they get a little too strong on that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I could see where you're coming with on that, Lucretia. All right, let's continue on then. Now he gives them a little encouragement. I like this. Verse 12 and 13. Look at this. Therefore, okay, so that's tying me back to things that were being said earlier in this chapter. It says, therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees, make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. So again, he's talking about some of these members that are needing encouragement. Now, if your knee or your ankle was sprained or you kind of hurt your knee a little bit, oftentimes your doctor may say, well, let's put a brace on that thing, right? Let's put a brace, let's kind of strengthen it up so that you could walk again. I know Ruthie has, her walker here, and Rick has his. It's good to have those kinds of things just to kind of help stabilize you. What he's talking about here is some of these members that are needing encouragement in their faith. That perhaps the best thing to do is not, if somebody's drowning out there, is to yell at them and say, start swimming. I know you're drowning, but you need to start swimming. What would be more helpful if somebody was out drowning, instead of just yelling at them and rebuking them and treating them like they're ignorant or dumb? What would be a better thing to do? Go out there. Help them out. Maybe you have to swim out there and then kind of give them the little donut thing and then kind of pull them in and stuff. When we see members that are struggling in their faith, in their walk with Christ, I've kind of noticed this. It's funny that we think if we ride them hard enough and really rebuke them, say, I'm just going to straighten them out, I'm going to nail their hide to the wall, that generally is not the best approach to people. Maybe it's something in human nature that makes us want to do that we want it so bad for them, we come across real strong. But if somebody approached you that way, what would your natural response be? I want you to be absolutely honest. If somebody approached you very aggressively, kind of with a frown on their face, and said, you need to straighten yourself up and get back to church and do this, 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 and this. What is your natural response to do? That's true. Sharon was 100% honest. I think all of us would feel that way. But what if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I've just really been concerned about you. How are you doing? How could I help? Could I pray for you? Is there somebody you would like to talk to? What would your response be to that? Yes. Well, yeah, David said, yeah. Obviously this person cares about me. Maybe I'm going through a struggle. Perhaps I've talked to somebody that said, I just feel depressed. I just want to stay at home. I just don't want to get out. I get it. I've been depressed too at times. And what you want to do is like, Steve, didn't that crack you up at that one deal at the conference, that one preacher? What did he say about people? It just made me think of that. Yeah. He'd been like a missionary up in North Dakota. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, here is a preacher. He's been doing it for 50 years. And he said, it dawned on me, I just hate people, you know. That's just where he was. He really loves people. You could tell he was tenderhearted, broke down in tears at a time. But all of us feel like that sometimes. When you're discouraged, you're depressed, I just want to get away from everybody for a while, turn my phone off. People are driving me nuts here and all that. But if somebody just allows you to vent, allows you to have a safe place, you can share anything with me. Whatever is said in this car or in Brahms or at your house, it stays there. I'm not going to spread any of this stuff. And just let me pray for you and encourage you. Let's get through this together. And I've noticed approaches like that have been real helpful for people. And it warms my heart and encourages them. See them come back into the building, start getting back, coming to church to say, I was just in a funk there for a little while. Thanks for being patient. And encouraging me. That's what we need to have. And the Hebrew writer says, encourage one another daily. And we need to do that. Make that a challenge of yours. Sometimes people will say, well, no one said hello to me, when I went to church. How could you turn that around? Did you say hello to anybody else? That's right. And it's amazing if you will smile and you say hello to other people, they just start responding. And other people start doing that. So don't fall into that little pity party, Say, well, no one's friendly. No one said hello to me. Well, guess what? I'm going to say hello to 6 to 10 people whenever I come to church. And it's amazing of how folks start reciprocating that. And you're just getting hellos and high fives and hugs and all that kind of stuff as you go along the way. Thoughts that you have? Yes, ma'am. Lily.
I think it's important when
Yeah.
you read about people rebuking people.
Yes.
Remember who the audience was.
Yes.
So when Paul is rebuking a church, he's rebuking the people who are coming to that church.
Uh-huh.
Versus like
Yeah.
us going out and rebuking the world.
Yes.
These
Yes.
people are sheep, they're lost. And
Yeah.
there were the Pharisees, there were the,
Uh-huh.
ones out there that were totally
Yes.
just sheep symbols, clothing. There's exceptions to the rule.
Sure.
But to go around and quote passages that are meant
For
for the church.
church people to know better to respond. Yes, exactly.
Quote that to someone who
Uh-huh.
has never been to church or never had the relationship they should. That's not what that passage is meant for. And then
Exactly.
you're kind of misrepresenting scripture. And
Sure.
that's what makes people
Get mad, defensive, and they're like, well, they have no context for any of this stuff that we're talking about here. Yeah.
an angry God. And I think a lot of people think
Yes.
that God is an angry God, and
That's right.
that's not who he is. So we need to be the shepherds of
To show them who God is on these kinds of things. And when we see that God does discipline his children, he's doing it for their righteousness and their holiness to make them better. Because sin is bad stuff. It does. It does not help us out when we sin. Sin is missing the mark. It's not measuring up to the standard that God would have for us to do. That's why he says, get rid of all sin. Everything that we can. Let's not get entangled up in those things. All right, we've got 2 or 3 minutes here. Let's do verse 14, then we're going to wrap her up for tonight. Here he says, make every effort to live in peace with all men and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Boy, that first part of that one, that's a challenge. I know Brother Steve Hildebrand was teaching on that in his Romans 12 class. As far as it depends on you, live at peace with everybody. Now, is that an easy command to follow after? There are some people that are just hard to get along with. There are some personalities. I've talked with PhD counselors on things. There are some personalities that love to pick a fight, love to have an argument and a debate with you. Whew, those are challenging people to be around. Not everybody's like that. That's a small percentage. But I'll tell you this, do your very best to try to get along with everybody. Be very patient. Love them. Show a lot of grace. Can you imagine how difficult it must have been for Jesus when he came to earth amongst all these sinners. Here you're absolutely perfect and sinless and divine, and you're around all these sinners. But how did Jesus even treat the worst of sinners? Yeah, a lot of love and compassion, a lot of patience. The ones that he kind of got frustrated with were the more religious ones that should have known better. They were just pretending like they were doing the right thing. So as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everybody. Live a holy life, live a life set apart to God, because without holiness, none of us are going to see God. Let's close things down for a prayer. It's been awesome to be with you here tonight and studying this good book of Hebrews. Father, thank you for this message of encouragement. Help us all tonight to keep our eyes on Jesus. Help us to persevere in our faith. Help us to learn important lessons, painful lessons at times in life that will help us to grow, help us not to be discouraged. Help us, as we talked about tonight, to be an encouragement to others, not knowing what difficulty they may be going through, but just to have the love of Christ in our hearts and a helping hand to provide relief in any way that we can. Father, I ask for your blessing to be upon all those that we mentioned tonight earlier in our prayer requests, especially mindful of the Miller family and Brother Gene that had surgery here today, and just pray that he'd be able to recover well and that we get to see him soon. It's in Jesus I pray. Amen. All right, we are dismissed.